We'll explore why Frankfurt Rhein-Main is attracting international companies, which industries are booming in the moment, and what sets Frankfurt apart from other regions in Germany and maybe even within Europe.
We're not just a finance hub. We are the financial center of Germany.
And all this within very pivotal times, because Germany just elected a new government with Friedrich Merz as a future chancellor, and he promised to really revive the region and to boost competition. And next to this, we also still have Donald Trump in the United States, who keeps us all active and is changing really the way economic is played internationally. Eric, what is your strategy in 2025, 2026?
I think
Welcome to New Courage Skyline Talk. Today I'm talking to Eric Menges. Eric Menges is president and CEO of Frankfurt Rhein-Main, the agency that is responsible for promoting one of Europe's most interesting business hubs. Eric, welcome. Let's dive into the discussion.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Eric, it's very impressive. You and your team supported over 1,000 international companies entering the Frankfurt Rhein-Main region. What are the top 3 success factors from your experience for foreign businesses to thrive really in the German market and in your region, beyond legal and compliance? This would be another topic which we will cover in another video, by the way.
Which I'm not an expert on either. So thanks for sticking to the other side of the discussion for the moment. But I think it's important to say that obviously it really depends on where companies are coming from. We're dealing with companies from around the globe, from India, from Japan, Korea, China. However, one of our most important source markets for foreign investment is the United States. We have a representative office that we run out of Chicago. So as you say, we have a lot of experience with foreign companies investing in the Frankfurt Rhein-Main region. And I have to say, one of the key factors clearly is access to clients. And by that, I don't mean are there potential clients, but do I know what my clients want? Do I know how they want me? Do they want me on the ground? What sort of capabilities they want me to put on the ground? That is sometimes an issue where companies are saying, well, look, it's a bit chicken and egg.
Okay.
If I get a contract, I'll put an office in, I'll put people in, I'll put skills into the market. But you're not getting the contract unless you have people, competence, and skills in the market. So that is sometimes a thing that we are discussing with our clients. How to get started and to make sure that you are appropriately equipped with dealing with your clients and what your clients are expecting of you. And certainly in a market like Germany, some of the clients may be expecting a lot because they think, and I think it's true, not just for Germany, but for all of Europe, that this is a very important market. In order to be successful in this market, you want to know exactly what you're doing and you want to be well prepared.
Okay. And can you name what is a typical pitfall from your experience, what companies from abroad do and should avoid?
I think what they should avoid is to come in too lightly, to just have a representative in the market, sort of scoping around whether it can attract any business or not, because the local customers will want to see commitment. The company is coming to Germany to do business with you and not just to scope around if there's any potential contracts around, which there aren't, because you really want to focus on doing business with or with several clients. But that is a common mistake. Just, one representative driving around Germany, trying to do business, and the client will say, oh, what will be the service support? What will be the engineering support? What will be the managerial support. Oh, once we get a contract, we'll put all that in.
Okay.
Obviously, companies are not prepared to make a big investment on their first step into a market, but there should be a solid investment, should be solid enough to convince your clients that you're there you're there in the long run. You're not going to get a contract this week. You're not going to go home and never come back. You will want to show your clients, I'm here to do business with you, and I'm prepared to invest for it.
Okay. So your recommendation is to really be well prepared as a German client, also demanding.
Absolutely.
And Eric, what makes Frankfurt Rhein-Main area really special? Why does it stand out towards other regions in Germany and maybe even within Europe?
I do get paid to say this.
Yeah.
But I'm also a person who's spent most of his life in the Frankfurt Rhein-Main region. I was actually born in Frankfurt, but I also lived in other places around the globe. I lived in Australia. I lived in Paris. I lived in London. A number of places around the world. Now I'm obviously traveling to a lot of other places. And it's always difficult to compare yourself to others because there are advantages, there are disadvantages. I like to focus on the positives of the Frankfurt Rhein-Main area and some of the things that make me want to live here and work here. And I think above all, and also in comparison to other locations around the globe, this place lives and breathes internationality. One of the largest international airports, international trade fairs that bring international business people to Frankfurt and the region year after year in the thousands. Just an international vibe of the place, which especially also young people really appreciate. You go to the streets of Frankfurt and you hear all kinds of languages, not just from Europe, but from around the globe. And in particular, a lot of English. So people speak English. English is widely spoken. So I think this is really something that is quite unique when you look at Frankfurt in comparison, maybe also to other places in Germany. All the big cities, people speak English, but the international feel and flair of Frankfurt and the surrounding area, I think, is something that is quite unique.
Okay.
Also, I think what is very special, also comparing it to other big business centers in Europe or around the globe, is the fact that we're not just a finance hub. We are the financial center of Germany, and we are one of the main financial centers of Europe. But there are other sectors that are equally as important. Just look at the airport and the whole logistics side of things. The life science sector. This is one of the main life science clusters in all of Europe. Data centers, so the IT industry, all that contributes to a highly diverse business structure that, as an example, during the times of the financial crisis, sort of remained at a fairly steady pace, not sort of going down with the financial sector and then coming up, but really maintaining a steady pace. And whenever there is one sector that is not doing so well, there's always another sector that is picking up what's been left behind. So that's why we have had a steady growth of people, of business, of economy in the Frankfurt Rhein-Main area. And that is why I think it's attractive for people to go and look for jobs, but also for businesses to go and look for business.
Okay, and can we compare, honestly, against cities like Paris, London?
Well, we are often compared to these cities, I have to say, but it's a little bit of an unfair competition, if there is a competition, because obviously these cities are capital cities in highly centralized countries. If you look towards France, Paris, no doubt, is the capital. This is where the politics are. This is where business is. And then you start thinking about, all right, what's the second most important city in France? As a German, is it Marseille? Is it Toulouse? Is it Lyon? Look towards the UK. Same thing. Capital city in a highly centralized country. What is the second most important city in the UK? Probably is Birmingham. But the difference between London and Birmingham is massive. You look to Germany, and you have Berlin as the political capital, but then you have places like Munich, Cologne, Frankfurt, Hamburg, already there. Which one would be regarded as the second most important city? Very difficult to say. And in the terms of Frankfurt and the Rhine-Main region, Frankfurt is the big brand, but it's not even the capital of the state, let alone the capital of the country. So that's why I'm saying it's quite difficult to compare Frankfurt to Paris and to London. But it's obvious that in some sectors, like the financial sector, we are obviously competing for people and for business. But I'm happy. I'm happy if whatever business decides to come to us. I don't think this whole competitive thing should be over exaggerated. I think we should focus on the strength that we have, and currently, I think we are attracting enough business for what we are hoping for, and it's something the media loves. The media loves to compare, especially during Brexit.
Yeah.
During Brexit, it's all how can Frankfurt compare to Paris and London and so forth. And I don't think that's what we should be doing. We should be focusing on our own strength and showing people that this is a fantastic place to live, bring your family, to raise a family, and to work and to be successful as a business.
And are there any industries, Eric, which are particular in this region? And where do you see the trend in the next coming 5 years? Any industries that are particularly focused here on this region, and for what reason?
Well, I think with the way things are developing at the moment, I think the financial center is going to grow. I think this is one area where we will most likely see some growth, especially with the new financing program that's been introduced or is going to be introduced by the new government. A lot of that will have to be financed via Frankfurt. So I think that is an area, but that's not something that is specifically surprising.
Yeah.
But if you look at other areas, data centers, this is an area that has grown dramatically over the last few years. By the way, especially also since Brexit, when a lot of the data that had previously been stored in the UK, in London, had to be transferred to a place within the European Union, and Frankfurt was the perfect place because Frankfurt is home to the world's largest internet exchange point called DKIX. And around this internet exchange point, a lot of data centers have grown up over the last years. So much so that Frankfurt and the Rhine-Main area are now on a global scale the third largest location for data centers.
Wow, impressive. Who's number 1 and 2?
North Virginia, London, and Frankfurt in the EU. And if you take these three, and Frankfurt is up here as number 3, number 4 is somewhere down here. So there's a big step from 3 to 4. So we're way ahead. So that's been growing quite strongly. And if you are looking at all the developments around artificial intelligence in particular, people tend to believe sometimes that artificial intelligence or ChatGPT happens on their iPhone. No, it doesn't. It happens in the data center. So whatever you're asking the AI is going to be processed in the data center. That data center needs to be somewhere. And in Germany, in most cases, the data center will be somewhere in or around Frankfurt.
Okay, interesting. Eric, now with Friedrich Merz, come to the next question. being our future chancellor in Germany, and he promised a lot. He promised really to revive our economy, to boost competition. So what do you expect? What will change in our region? And how could your region, really benefit from the new government?
Well, obviously, I've been in this role for quite a while, and I know that not everything that is said before an election is actually something that will be introduced after an election. Also because ahead of the election, you're never quite sure who you're going to have a coalition with. So all that needs to be taken with a grain of salt. However, I think some of the commitments that have been made, and especially it's almost a trillion euro that are going to be injected into the economy in Germany via this new program of the new government. I think it will boost a number of areas, and I think it will lead to a situation where companies from outside of Germany will want to be a part of this. I mean, this is not just, this is not just a couple of million here and maybe another 20 million over here. This is, 500 billion for defense and 500 billion for infrastructure. This is massive. And this is attracting companies from around the globe. So,
can you tell already? You have more requests of companies who want to enter Germany?
Well, we certainly have companies asking for it. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's this about? Is this, there are countries around the world where these programs would only be limited to the local companies. But, Germany is an open market. So if you set up an operation here, if you set up a company here, you will be allowed to do business in these areas. Infrastructure, defense is always a little bit tricky, but infrastructure for sure. So I think overall injecting 1 trillion into the economy will have effects. What there will be, we'll have to see. Will there be more, will we be able to create more than what's called a flash in the pan, or just a short-term sort of effect, of short-term boost, or will it be something that will last and will have some sustainability to it? Will remain to be seen. But there's no doubt injecting this sort of money into an economy will have effects, will have positive effects for businesses, and will attract foreign businesses as well.
Okay. And if you could give a recommendation, which reform or what would be an initiative you would highly recommend to really move forward with to push our economy?
Reduce bureaucracy.
Okay.
Which is probably the most difficult one, but it's a lot harder than spending. Well, I'm saying this, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I imagine it to be a lot harder than spending 1 trillion euros, sort of really cutting down on bureaucracy. This is what we find, especially with foreign companies coming to Germany. Some of the things they have to, adhere to, some of the things they have to do, they have to report on. It's just, it's sometimes very complicated, especially for foreign companies. Bureaucracy is good.
Yeah.
But I do have the feeling, not just with talking to, the foreign companies, also the local companies, we might have gone a little bit overboard with it. We're known for it. And this is also part of what we do as an organization. We help foreign companies understand what's going on and how to navigate the system and how to deal with German administration, which after all is not as bad as some people tend to believe it is. Because, if you go to the United States and you say, oh, Frankfurt Rhein-Main is so great because we have German administration. This is not really a selling pitch. But to say, look, don't be afraid, don't be shy, because look at all these great companies that have successfully invested. They've done it, you can do it. And we will help you doing it. But overall, I think bureaucracy is a key point.
Yeah.
If I may mention a second one, is really spelling out and communicating a medium to long-term energy supply strategy. That is something that I'm often being asked about when I travel to countries outside of Europe. Obviously things are running at the moment, but what is the strategy? I think there have been a lot of changes in recent years. With a new government, I think they would be able to come out and really say, look, this is the strategy. This is where we're investing. This is where we're heading. This is what you can expect in the future from us.
Okay, so less bureaucracy, better prices for energy. So are you positive your wishes will be fulfilled?
Sorry, I didn't say better prices for energy. I think the key factor is reliability, to know what's coming and not to be confronted with changing price levels on a monthly or annual basis. You, as an investor, you want to know where this is heading, what to expect, what to put into your calculations.
Okay, and in terms of energy prices, you think we are on a fair level and can compete with other?
Well, I think it'd be nice if we could lower that. That's for sure, but also for private households, I think. But Germany has always had higher energy prices in comparison, let's say, to the United States. And we lost businesses a long time ago that were highly energy intensive. But I think, yes, energy prices are an issue, but I think the main issue is really having a reliable path to the future that companies can rely on when they plan on investing.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. And now across the Atlantic, we can see a lot of dynamics as well with Donald Trump taking over and reshaping really our economy. How do you see the transatlantic relationship? Can you tell companies, I mean, there are different requests. Are there still any requests, Eric, at all? Because in the moment, Donald Trump is really offering, I mean, it's incredible, right? How they try to attract German companies to go over to the United States. If I briefly may say, I was yesterday at an event, American-German Business Club, and an expert from US Consulate spoke, and he clearly pointed out how interested the United States, respectively Donald Trump, are in particular attract defense energy. And what else was it? Let me see, life science and manufacturing industry. And if they're interested in coming over to the United States, they can see great advantages. So do we still have a chance?
That speech had an immediate effect. You might have read this morning that Roche has announced plans to invest in the United States in the life science sector. So that is as you say, that is a direct result of the current politics. And the trade barriers that have been erected or have been increased.
Tariffs.
So what's the overall effect? I think incredibly hard to judge at this point in time. It's such a fluent state where almost every week you have a new announcement. Some tariffs are going up, some tariffs are going down. There are exceptions over here. There are new tariffs over there. It's very difficult. To answer your questions, do we get requests? Absolutely. Because if you're looking at trade barriers typically lead to foreign direct investment. Why? Because obviously a company does always want to protect their market and will, as a consequence, try to set up behind the trade barriers in order to deliver, to manufacture their product to the existing client base. But what's true for the United States, if the tariffs remain in place, will also be true for Europe. So US companies will want to protect their market share in Europe. And in Europe, we still believe that Germany and Frankfurt is the best place to base your business at. So depending on how this all levels out in terms of the tariffs up and down and high and low,
dynamic in the moment, yeah.
I think it's something that is, it's vice versa. Companies investing in the United States to protect their market share in the United States, and US companies investing in Europe to protect their market share in Europe. I think what's also important to understand is that the US companies that are already here will need to show their existing client base that they remain committed, hopefully unaffected, and will remain here to service the needs of their clients and are prepared to fight for their market share, despite all the issues that we currently see on global markets with tariffs and potential trade wars. I mean, trade wars is absolutely terrible. In the end, everybody's hurt. So I think overall, every company that is entering into a trade war in the end will lose. In the short run, you might have a few wins, like attracting direct investment of companies trying to overcome the trade barriers by providing local manufacturing, local production. But in the long run, competitiveness, cost, all the things that have, I mean, it's been proven over and over again that this is not something that is beneficial and sustainable on a long-term basis.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Eric, also from you as an expert, right? What I hear from some clients, also from the United States, or Germany, where do you see the strengths really of Germany? They say, well, Germany has predictability, what the United States in the moment doesn't have. We have stability. We can offer security. Are these, in your opinion, criteria which could really benefit Germany in this current insecure situation, which you're saying every day there's news?
Oh, absolutely. You wouldn't believe how many people were surprised when the German government fell apart last year.
Yeah.
It was, what's going on? What's happening in Germany? So totally unheard of. So I think it still stands, and the way this process has now been run shows that this is reliable, this is democratic, it ticks all the right boxes in terms of a reliable process that businesses can count on. I can't see any situation where the government would have, would do the same actions as the current Trump administration is doing in terms of dealing with businesses, and I mean, you've heard about professors from universities looking for alternatives, all that. You never say never, but I just can't see it. So Germany, in my view, really is an anchor of stability in Europe, but also globally. And this is the feedback I'm getting from all our clients from Asia in particular, who, we here in Germany, we like to always discuss the issues and the problems and all those sort of things. And there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed. But when I travel to Asia, the picture they have in their minds is totally different. It's that of a highly successful Germany. Maybe everything they thought about our football doesn't really transfer into the current situation. But in terms of the economy, I think they're still spot on. There are issues, but there are also an incredible number of highly successful global companies that will do business even in a changed world of higher and lower tariffs, and all that with a government that is, in my view, will be very stable.
Eric, what is your strategy in 2025, 2026? Are there any companies from abroad that are particularly welcomed? I mean, we just mentioned Trump, right? Defense, life science, and manufacturing. Are there any companies, industries, which are you preferring in the region in the moment?
I think everybody in Germany, and that's not just us here in the Frankfurt area, but it's also the federal government, everyone is looking for manufacturing investment. And you can obviously see that by looking at some of the incentives that have been offered in some places in Germany, not in Frankfurt, because we're not allowed to offer incentives on the scale that maybe some of the more eastern states are able to offer. However, we've seen some pretty substantial investment projects here in the manufacturing space. Sanofi, the French pharmaceutical company, investing 1.3 billion in their local insulin plant here in Frankfurt. Lilly, an American company, investing, I think, about 2 billion euros into a new manufacturing plant for their weight loss products. So I think the life science sector is definitely an area where we can expect to see more, and an area that we will also focus on in the future. Overall, with regards to our particular strength, the connectivity to the rest of Europe, to Germany and the world via the airport and via our train and road system, companies who are just looking to set up a central organization to deal with their German and European markets, regional headquarters, company that is looking to set up an administrative operation in Europe to deal with all their sales outlets, to deal with all their different manufacturing facilities they might have or might be looking at in the future. So I think that is something where our internationality, our traffic infrastructure in terms of trains, airport, and roads will really contribute to growing this even further in the future.
Okay. So if you weren't president and CEO of Frankfurt Rhein-Main and you would start a startup, what kind of startup would you start in this area in Frankfurt Rhein-Main?
That's a good question, and something I haven't thought about because at my age, having a startup is a little bit out of the question.
It's never too late.
I could be a counselor. Could be a counselor in one if somebody wanted it. But no, look, seriously, there are a number of. I'm actually participating in a number of competitions as a juror, where startups are pitching for a prize or for money, and I really enjoy being part of this sort of exercise and looking at some of the up and coming companies. I sometimes wonder whether we're losing some of the talent that we currently have into some of these startups that end up going nowhere. There are a lot of successful startups, but obviously there are startups that are going nowhere as well. And there's a lot of talent there. So I think, obviously, I would look at, and this is the question that's always been asked, something that's scalable, not something that works just on the German market, but something that at least works in the European market. What that product could be, to be honest, I have absolutely no idea. But to make it scalable, and this is something I think Europe as a whole and the EU should be looking at even closer. And if you're looking at the financial services market, they're talking about capital markets union. I think there are so many areas where things are just very specialized for one market. But if you manage to have a product or agree on a product that is usable across all borders, whether it's Spain, France, Portugal, or what have you, I think you're really in for something that could be a great success. But really make it scalable across Europe. That would be my first condition on starting.
Okay. You gave a good brief here, some very interesting insights. So maybe you will get some calls now from youngsters who want to found their startup and need your help. I'm sure you could help them, right? And who to contact and get in touch with? I'm
on LinkedIn. Everybody's on LinkedIn, so I'm on LinkedIn as well. I can be contacted via LinkedIn, and I really enjoy talking to some of these young people. Just the ideas they have. Where I'm saying this is not possible, they say, "Oh no, you're saying it's not possible. We've already done it." Oh, okay, so then it is possible then. So it's just amazing some of the stuff they come up with, and we have some great universities in the Rhine-Main area, and a lot of technical stuff coming out of these universities as well. So again, something really technical, typical German engineering, combined with the potential to sell it across Europe, I think would be something that people should be looking at.
Okay, thank you for this inspiration. Eric, we're almost at the end, but we cannot talk about Frankfurt Rhein-Main without touching the financial center, of course. And you said Frankfurt is a true financial center of Germany and actually the only one. How do you see its role within Europe, also comparing with Paris and London, also in the current dynamic turmoil, I may say, which we globally see? Will it be growing? Will it go down? What's going to happen?
Oh no, it won't go down. It will grow. I'm absolutely positive about this one. And coming back again to the billions of euros that are going to be invested in Germany, a lot of that is going to flow into the market via Frankfurt. As a matter of fact, the government bonds are actually issued here in Frankfurt. I see the financial center being strengthened. It's also for me great to see that there is a momentum. The city of Frankfurt, the state of Hessen, and the federal government are working hand in hand to grow the financial center. And not to say, look, we have 16 states, we need to look after all the states the same. And it's true, you need to look after all the 16 states the same, but there's one financial center, and that is Frankfurt. And that financial center has a relevance for the wealth, for the growth, for the sustainability of all of Germany. So it really makes sense to strengthen that financial center. And as I said before, we're seeing this momentum. There are a number of initiatives that are taking place at the moment. We've had great support from the federal government when we went out with just last week, a couple of weeks ago, we were in New York with the mayor of Frankfurt, Mike Luther, and we were promoting the financial center, and we were supported by a state secretary from the Federal Ministry of Finance in New York.
Wow.
And Jörg Cook is the current finance minister. He was keen to participate. There are a lot of dates currently floating around, but he supported us last year when we were doing the same in London. And that is something that is entirely new, that the city of Frankfurt, the Rhine-Main region, together with the federal government, are positioning Germany and the Rhine-Main region outside of Germany in some of these places like New York, London, and other places. So there is a momentum that I'm really positive about this, that will lead to an increase and will lead to growth of the financial center. A number of factors that are difficult for me to judge, what's going to happen with, with the euro, with the US dollar, with the RMB. Again, if you look at the currencies, it's going to be the dollar, the RMB, as I keep reading in the paper, the renminbi from China, and the euro. And this is the place of the euro. This is the place of the euro. Also, one of the reasons why last year, Frankfurt won the bid to host the new European Anti-Money Laundering Authority, short AMLA,
also here,
which has started to operate just, I think, last month, which will grow over time in Frankfurt, which is an important institution, a European institution, yet another European institution. The IOPA, which is responsible for supervising insurance businesses, the European Central Bank, and now AMLA. So three really important European institutions confirming that Frankfurt is the financial center. And I also think forming a very strong base from which Frankfurt will grow in the future as a financial hub.
Interesting. Okay, that's good to hear. And it will have effects also on other industries, I assume, when we have such a strong financial hub here in this area.
Oh, absolutely. And vice versa, by the way. the banks and the financial institutions that we are talking to are also particularly interested in the other industries that are located in the Rhine-Main area. Because, and that's where we're going full circle now, these are the clients. These are the people the banks, the financial institutions want to do business with. And this is such a strong cluster of businesses from all kinds of industries that makes it really attractive also for the financial institutions to base themselves here. So it's really going both ways.
Interesting. And last question really to you. Do you see any trends? For example, Trump obviously doesn't pay a lot of attention anymore to sustainability. And I know that was a big aspect also for the finance sector. Do you hear anything from the finance sector? What is the role of Germany? Will we also skip the importance of sustainability, or how will we deal with it?
Well, I think to skip the importance of sustainability would not be very wise. I can sort of, I think that's an obvious one. But it's obviously the way you go about doing things. So some of the reporting mechanisms have been looked at. And I think that's very positive. Because again, coming back to my earlier statement about bureaucracy and all that, I think we might have gone a little bit overboard on that. Just this morning, I read in the paper that a lot of the requirements for the financial sectors will remain in place with regards to sustainability and sustainability of their clients. So whereas, yes, there is a change in the overall tone introduced by Trump, Donald Trump, the new president, I think it will remain important. It will be looked at differently. That's visible already. But by no means will it be skipped. I think it will remain a high priority. But in terms of Germany, I think there will be a big discussion around what we're actually doing to really make a difference, to really make a change in terms of CO2 emissions, in terms of other environmental factors. I think this discussion is well overdue, and I think this is what companies are looking at the moment. But what I can tell you that is, we're getting requests in for companies who want to put up energy storage systems. We need the energy where the business is. So all these discussions are taking place. So by no means is Germany moving away from sustainability, but I think we are just having a discussion about how things are done, where they're done, and who's doing it, and at what cost. And that I think is overdue. And in that regard, I don't think just because there's a new administration in the US, the world will skip their view on sustainability.
Hopefully not, yeah. Eric, thank you very much for your time. Did we not touch any topic you still like to mention, or?
Well, I think what we did not mention is, and this is where we were coming from, we were talking about the United States, is that, and it's just worth mentioning, that Frankfurt Rhein-Main area is the area that is hosting the most and the largest American companies in Germany. So this is a very important part of our business spectrum, and we have very close relationships with the American business community, with the American businesses. You mentioned the American German Business Club. There are many other organizations as the American Chamber of Commerce, and there's so much going on in this space. It's just worth mentioning that the Frankfurt Rhein-Main area is actually the biggest cluster of US business in Germany.
That's a good point. It's true. Experience that here too. Berlin may be the second biggest, but by far in terms of industry also it's Frankfurt, right?
Oh, absolutely. Nowhere near. I mean, yes, there is, there are US organizations, the embassy, of course, diplomatic, of course. But in terms of business, just look at the financial center, the American banks, American law firms, American consulting firms, companies like Procter & Gamble,
Yes.
so many large US companies are based here with their headquarters. It's quite amazing. And it's often, that's why I mention it, it's often misunderstood. I remember a former consul general coming into Frankfurt, and we had the same discussion. And he mentioned to me, he said, look, it's all great, but I think Berlin is the place where most American businesses are. And fortunately, it wasn't me, again, who gets paid to say this, but it was the head of the American Chamber of Commerce in Germany who stepped in and said, no. Our main client base as the Chamber of Commerce is here in Frankfurt.
Thank you. Interesting. That's a good starting point. And let's see, maybe we can talk again in a year, Eric, and see what changed until then.
I think that would be very interesting, just to take stock what we thought would happen this year and what will happen until then. Where will the tariffs be? Who will have tariffs? Who won't have tariffs? Curious to see, but predictions are always difficult, especially when they concern the future. A famous German comedian once said.
True. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.